to address a special compliment to Madame Silvia Lutucuta, Minister of Health of Angola, and all the rest of the participants in this session, and also everyone that is listened to us. And I would like to thank the organizers of the EurAfrican Forum for this opportunity. It's a pity that I cannot be with you. It's a subject that I really like and enjoy working for many years, especially since I was minister in Portugal. And also the opportunity to see so many friends that are among the speakers and the participants in this event. And this is also an opportunity for me to explain you, because I think it's still not very well known, the fantastic work that Europe and the European Commission is doing and has done in the past, fostering access to vaccines, medicines, and health technology in African countries. I will start my address with a short statement of the importance of capacity building and the relations between tech transfer and capacity building, very shortly, because I know that we are among specialists that know the importance of capacity building. From there, I move to a concrete example that is very dear to me, and you will understand why. That is now called Global Health. Is a partnership with involving 50 countries, 15 Europeans and 25 African countries, and to conclude with some recommendations from the work that has been done in this partnership. On the question of technology transfer and capacity building, since in my experience in negotiating in the area of climate change, we always, under the Kyoto Protocol and after the Paris Agreement, in the dossier of capacity building and technology transfer, I had the privilege to be involved under several occasions and negotiations in the Portuguese and after in the European team that negotiate. And I always like this subject of the capacity building. There is no true technology transfer without proper capacity building. We cannot look at other countries, African countries or other countries, as simple end users of goods or of technologies. This should be always accomplished with an effort to strengthen the capacity of the country that receives this technology or buys this technology, if it's a contract, a commercial contract. And when I talk about capacity building, I'm talking about institutional development, namely through bilateral cooperation, partnerships, both at the government level, public and private sector. I'm also talking about cooperation in regulatory and regulation, development of public policies, also on the ethical guidelines, on cooperation between the ethical bodies that are so important in the field of health, also advisory bodies, and cooperation to align standards. It's very important that we, with our friends, with the countries that we cooperate, we have a common base of international standards, ethical standards of new technologies. It's important that is a common basis for understand. Also, capacity building on skills. We need critical mass, qualified professionals, and that will make change to happen. And so all the cooperation should have the skills component as a very important part. And infrastructures. We need to in all the cooperation make sure that infrastructures played an important role in the area of health, from hospitals, clinics, factories are important, that countries like in Africa have their ability to manufacture is so important. We have lost some of this capability in Europe in some areas, not so much in health, but it's very important that we gain the strategic autonomy. It passes a lot through the capacity to manufacturing. That is an important component in all the fields and also in health. And of course, research centers and universities. And this brings me to the last point that I want to say on capacity building, on the importance of collaboration on research and innovation. And probably for me is one of the most important, that our researchers collaborate, that there is mobility, two-way mobility. I don't like the mobility only from Africa to Europe or from other countries to Europe. We should have a two-way mobility. And the example that I am going to show you of a very very successful initiative has all these components inside. And the mobility we have pushed in the European Parliament, that the Commission has these instruments to have this two-way mobility, both through the framework programs for science and innovation, through Erasmus programs, through the Marie Curie fellowships, that we don't have only one way, but we have two ways. We also have research groups that are composed by Europeans that work in Africa together, side by side with the African counterparts. So let me tell you the example that I want to talk about is an example, as I told you, dear to me, because it was initiated when I was minister by myself and Pascoal Mukumbi, that was at the time Prime Minister of Mozambique. And we have proposed this to the European Council to be an European initiative, a European and developing countries clinical trial partnership. And we propose as a public-to-public partnership. It took a long time to negotiate the first partnership, but we managed, after 2 years of difficulties, negotiations inside the council, we were able to have a partnership that is financed by the framework program and that puts researchers, universities, institutions from African countries and European countries to work together to develop clinical trials. But the good thing is that it's not only the clinical trials as a strong component on research, as a strong component on skills, as a strong component on infrastructure development in the African countries. And also the European researchers go to these countries that are partners. Now we have, as I told you, 25 countries partners that goes there, do the research, do the clinical trials, and also are involved in the health system of the country, the local health system. So it's really a fantastic example that we can use in other areas of health. And this is a flagship initiative. After we had 2 other editions, so we had this is called short name EDCTP, we had EDCTP1, after EDCTP2 that was the continuation, and I was already no more minister but in the parliament, and I was a rapporteur, and the EDTCP3 that has started 2 years ago, that is now changed the name to Global Health. I had the privilege to be also rapporteur. And in this third phase, we have changed from public to private partnership in order to include also the private sector that is so important. So it was a further development to include the pharmaceuticals, but also SMEs, also the digital health sector inside this. Is recognized worldwide as an important initiative. It aims at AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis, and is so successful that, for example, Melinda Gates Foundation has decided to join their efforts on malaria with this EDCTP. So we have like a joint venture with them. And I was very pleased, for example, recently, already after the pandemic, that I visited in Washington some of the National Institutes for Health in the US, and they told me, you have the most fantastic partnership in health that most completely that exists in terms of worldwide. The Europeans should be proud of this initiative, and I'm really proud of this. And the budget now is 1.6 billion euros from the European Commission, but as I told you, there is other donors that have joint efforts, and there is also the private sector. And that have joined the efforts to develop the work under now called global health. And they have already achieved very good results. For example, thanks to EDCTP, we have a new child-friendly formulations of the antiviral HIV drugs. We have, for the first time over 40 years, a phase 3 clinical trial for a new tuberculosis treatment. And recent, probably the most success or the most obvious result, following a very successful pilot project, the World Health Organization recommend the use of a first ever malaria vaccine in children in sub-Saharan Africa and other regions with moderate rates of high transmission. And EDCTP was not the only, but was heavily involved in the development of this vaccine. Also, the research centers and clinicals, because they have clinicals in different countries. I have the privilege to visit in Cape Town and also in Addis Ababa, the clinicals where they develop the work of EDCTP, and they also give a big service to the community in terms of health attendance. And during the COVID, they also were essential both for the health system, but also the administration of vaccines. As I say, how there is a lot of lessons that we need to withdraw from this EDCTP. The fact that there is a real partnership. We work together between Europeans and researchers and doctors and nurses from African countries. We do not only the core of the clinical trial, but we do research, we do training, we do health. So it's a very good. We also help to strengthen the regulatory system, the ethics bodies of the countries where we are cooperate. So it's a very good example, as I told you, that we should look for the future. And how do I see the future development of the global health, and also withdrawing conclusions for other initiatives of this kind? First, we need to build on examples like this for other sectors in health and other outside health. And we need, in the global health itself, I have been pushing with my last report when I was rapporteur for global health, that they don't stay on the AIDS, malaria and tuberculosis, but they also go to neglected diseases. There are a number of diseases that are, some of them fatal, that still need a lot of attention, and they do not have sufficient attention from the private sector. talking about, for example, sleeping sickness, but there are several. So there is also something that we need to be present, and they should develop also on these areas. The other recommendation is that we need to have an holistic view, both from the European institutions' point of view. For example, this example that I've shown here is financed by the Research and Development Fund. But we have developing funds that is done by other parts of the Commission of the Development Cooperation. So we need to put this working together and funding projects, co-funding projects between the two institutions. So it's easier that we joint efforts, that we, like we have done with foundations, we also need to put some funds together. We are managed already to do that with several member states, like Germany, that is putting more than its percentage on the DCTP. They are putting their national programs also together with these initiatives. So we really need synergies of funding, as we the challenge are so big that you need such a critical mass on research, on clinical trials, that we really need to put the efforts together. And also the synergies at the local, we need to do the synergies between what we are doing and what is around us. That these good examples also contaminate in the positive way the health system, the way to work. And this is already happening in the DCTP, but it should help more and more, that the ways that, for example, in Cape Town, I saw a full professor from Imperial College was leading the team, and he was also helping the small clinic to organize themselves, and to organize themselves also in the terms of the health service that they provide to the community. And it was a fantastic example to see. And this should be more and more, that we have these synergies between the different policies. This is the way to cooperate at equal foot in. And the challenges are, as I told, enormous, but I'm optimistic, and I believe that we are in a new phase of cooperation, and these examples like this that should be replicated in many areas to look for a better future and to move forward. And thank you again for this opportunity.